Hey guys, Fields here. Today we're going to be going over the portfolio for the week. So to start off, let's look at the last week of performance on the S&P. So you can see that overall semiconductors kept going through, except for NVIDIA. NVIDIA is down about almost 5% this week, which is pretty interesting. But overall, I would say it's decent. Same thing as actually really as a technology as a whole. You can see that software like SaaS companies kind of rebounded. There's this semiconductor equipment materials not doing too hot, but that's probably dependent off of some other stuff there. So yeah, I'd say overall decent. There was some heavy hitters that did lose. Notable ones were Microsoft, but more importantly, Meta here. So earnings happened this week, which, as I kind of predicted, I want to say, is more of like a gut feeling. We actually came through with most companies on earnings, which is very good to see. I know a lot of people were pretty worried about this earnings season, in particular, just to see if AI was basically going to affect us. So good to see that it's not, at least not yet. There was some stuff maybe on some companies like Meta, with capex. So it is what it is, but overall not too bad. Now moving on, instead of this spreadsheet, I'm trying to move over to a new custom site that I built. Well, I've definitely used AI a lot, but yeah, the idea here is that I don't have to use the spreadsheet. Now, there's a few reasons for this. One reason is it's honestly, I do code for a living, so it's a lot easier for me to actually add stuff that I want, as well as spreadsheets are kind of limited in the sense of what you can add. So there's a lot of stuff that I have to do behind the scenes on the spreadsheet, like huge formulas to get them to work. But on coding, more advanced stuff, it's a lot easier, honestly. So while I was doing that, though, I did come across a very interesting thing. When I made this about last year, the formulas that I used probably weren't the best. So I can actually pull that up here real quick on Portfolio Tracker. So you can see here I updated it today, or this last, on Friday. So it should be nearly the same, but you can see that in the last year, it's saying that our total portfolio is up 28%. But you'll notice here, it's actually showing 31.79, which is really interesting. And the benchmark, which we have selected here for is SPY, is 2251, which here we're showing 19. So why is that the case? Well, it's a different formula. I believe I'm using simple return on the other one, whereas this one it's better to, because we're always doing comparison to SPY, it's better to use time weighted return. And then if we are just looking about really how good our money did, we can look at money weighted return. So either or both are showing a lot higher, which is super nice. And you can see on the individual level as well. So you can see on Composer, M1, Webull. So you can see here, Webull is obviously not doing too hot, but yeah. And you can see here, it's kind of cool. So I have the alpha. So this is basically the amount on top of, or like basically the difference to the benchmark. So I have SPY and QQQ here. So you can see we're actually not too far off from QQQ. But if we go to Composer, have QQQ selected, go like 3 months, you can see we're actually up almost 13.5%. Something to remember here is Composer, we really didn't do too hot. So if I go to the last, or let's do the last year, you can see here, and let me take out Webull because that kind of skews the results here. But you can kind of see, actually, let me just do these two. So ours is this bottom one, and you can see how much really it's come back. So since about January-ish is when we really made a big tweak. This obviously had a big jump, but we're going quite high. So, and I also have the waterfall chart here, which is super nice. I can select these because on this one I didn't actually have that ability. It's right here. So I have it here, but I can't actually change the the date ranges are super annoying, and I only have that for there. So anyways, in addition, I have the 2 charts that I had on the side are these little, why do I keep clicking on that? Year by year charts to show off, each month, I guess, month by month, and then the total. I also need a total, but it is what it is. So you can see Composer here, let's select that. You can see total strategy here, and for the benchmark as well. And then we have the historical ledger, which is basically just this sheet here. I just did it again. This sheet here, and it shows, these highlighted dates here are the start of each week. And yeah, what's really cool, I was wanting to add this for a while on this spreadsheet, which was basically the dollar amounts that we've gone up for the day. It's really easy to add that, except that we have a lot of logic. Like we have this stuff that is dependent off of the name of the column, or the column number or letter, I guess, that it's in. You can see here. And there's a lot of other stuff that would have to have changed. Some of it Google handles for us, but like in this, we specifically address it by that name. So there's a lot of updating that I would have to do, and I could break stuff. And a lot of these calculations are probably not accurate anyways. In addition to all of this, something that's interesting is Google Finance, I believe they don't, when you query it on a spreadsheet at least, I don't believe they include corporate action adjustments. So that's another thing to look forward to. It's not really a problem with SPY, but something like a dividend stock is problematic, or something that has splits. So I don't know how they handle each of those differently, but anyways. So we have that. So for example, on Friday, we gained $500 for the total portfolio, and we can have that on each different level here as well. So you can see we lost $40 there. And we have the same thing here. Obviously, we don't have that on each of these. And something I do need to add actually is the contribution. I might not have that set on the contribution. So I'll get that added there. So that actually could change it, but I digress. The way this is going to work anyways is with a daily value. So I guess it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But yeah, really nice to have this. So, and like I said, we can do this chart, which is super nice. I'll add probably more dates here. And then we can also, so this is the percent increase based on basically, the daily performance, but we could also do the absolute value of each of them. So you can see here how the portfolio is done over time. And we also have this up here, which is to show the portfolio value versus our goal. So right now we're at 30.3%. So almost exactly a third of the way there, which is super nice. Now going on into the different portfolios now. So let's start on Composer. So Composer, I guess we probably go back here for the week. So Composer for the week is up, or is actually down about $60, 0.21%. We had a good Friday, but there was some mistimed trades on, I think, UVXY that we had. So that was kind of annoying, but, overall, not too bad. On M1 Finance, though, it's the complete opposite. We had really good earnings set up for our portfolio, and we'll get into that in a second, but not too bad. So we're actually positive on, and let me go back to SPY actually. Positive on SPY by a whole percent. On here, we're down by a whole percent. And then Webull for the week, not too hot. So down almost exactly 10%. Luckily, though, this is a very small part of my portfolio. So yeah, part of me is really thinking of just selling it at this point. Because I'm like, well, like I said in a previous video, I could potentially use this to offset some taxes. That'd be one reason. Another reason would be peace of mind, just having this out of my head. I can take that and reinvest it into something else. Because, I mean, in this grand scheme of things, since we've had it, we are only up 20%, but it's, the volatility on it is actually, like, it's crazy. So, honestly, don't know. But going into these, so currently on Composer, we're currently holding the standard bull rotation stuff. So TQQQ, QQQ, and SPY. And I believe we're all close to overbought levels again. We keep going back and forth between that. So if I go to the Holy Grail, you'll see here, for example, if it's in this overbought area, RSI of 10-day, then it buys into VIX products such as VXX. But and that's what kind of drug us in the dirt, kind of, so to speak, last week, because we had some mistimed trades there. Not mistimed trades. This logic doesn't work every single time, but it works enough times to where the payoff is usually worth it. So I'm keeping it like that. Plus, just because 1 week does poorly doesn't mean it's something that we should actually update on the strategy. So yeah, moving on into M1 Finance, we can see here for last week, and then I go here. So for each of them, you can see the best sector we had here on M1 Finance was technology, with the biggest gainer there was 12% from Google, which is crazy. Microsoft, like I said, not too hot, but it is what it is. Then we had healthcare, Eli Lilly, astronomically high, 9% up, which is super nice. AbbVie, pretty nice. Vertex, not too hot, but again, it is what it is. On financials, Visa exploded, 6% up. I've been waiting for that to happen. Unfortunately, though, MasterCard, not so good, down 1.73%. Morgan Stanley is still going high, which is actually crazy. I think it's like 52-week high. On the opposite side of things, we only had one bad sector this week that was net negative, which was consumer discretionary. Unfortunately, Home Depot continues to decline, 3.5% down. Semiconductors also down. Nvidia, like I said. AMD, though, is defying odds and keep going up. And then industrials, the biggest loser there was from Honeywell. But RTX a little bit, and this has continued mainly because the ongoing crisis. So since last episode, we've received one dividend, which was from AMT for $4.28. I'll take that. That's a pretty nice amount. And moving on to the holdings area, we can see AMD is up 176% on our portfolio, which is crazy. I mean, this is less than a year, and it's up that much, right? It's almost 4x or something. So you can see our cost basis here and our current value here, which is crazy. That's a 3x return. So yeah, crazy. Google up 115%, also crazy. And then AVGO also up 60%. Now you'll see those top three doing crazy numbers, and then Nvidia down here at 36%, which is crazy. That's tied with Morgan Stanley. That's not something I would have expected to hear a year ago. But yeah, on the opposite side of things, Home Depot is our worst stock right now, down 10.6%. MasterCard down 10%. AMT down 8%. Microsoft down 6.8%. Visa, we're going to skip Procter & Gamble. No real news there. Visa slowly, crawling out of that moat. So hopefully we'll finally get there. But yeah, overall, the portfolio is doing pretty nice. Also, Costco here. I think that must have been last week or something. But yeah, really nice gain overall. I mean, we can see here on M1 Finance how we've done. We've done really well. Up 33% compared to SPY, that's up 10%, and compared to QQQ, up 3%. But we actually have had way less volatility than both of those, I believe. That is something I need to get added, which is basically this little advanced stats section. But yeah, moving on to the last part of the video, which is just the review of Webull. So you can see 2% up, 4% up, 8% up, and then 9% down, and then 14% down. So crazy week. Like I said, we lost 14% 10% That's 14% on there. Is that accurate? Yeah, I guess close. We'll have to review that, but down 10%. So kind of sucks, but not something I'm really worried about right now. Our current level on this is at $242, so it's like, what do you do? I could sell it, but in the chance that MSTR comes out, there's like a lawsuit that comes out on MSTR or some crazy news, this could go sky high. So who knows? Like I've always said, like the last year, in my opinion, I feel like it's actually kind of worth just holding on to at this point. But oh man, it is tough. It is really tough. So, but yeah, guys, that is it for me. And yeah, as always, I wish you guys well to the future.